right, welcome back in. Just another football show. All right, they're still here. Talking my Chiefs. Talking a little Steelers.
Yeah,
I don't know. Vegas would have you believe this is the terrible game for the weekend.
Well, this is what you said, the noon on Sunday game. It didn't wind up there.
I really expected that this was just going to be the garbage early game, but turns out Big Ben's
this is the letdown game after
Big
the
Ben's retirement,
and
then the Chiefs in general. Maybe they get that. I mean, the Patriots did it for years, got that primetime spot, even though they played bad teams. So maybe that's just what the Chiefs are now. I don't know. So we're going to talk
you became everything you hated. How does that feel?
Well, you what's the thing?
You became
die the hero, or live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
The CM Punk to John Cena thing. You became the New York Yankees.
Well, let's calm down with the Yankees. That's a different thing completely. So we're gonna talk to Chiefs fan Frenchie. Obviously, got to get him on. This is what we do. Actually, I'm gonna kick Jam out of the room to talk to him in kayfabe. In real life, that interview was already done and things. And then we're going to talk to Chris, Steelers fan. I believe we talked to him a couple seasons ago in the preseason, maybe even the postseason. I'd have to go back and look through the archives, but
might have been last year.
Good fan, and gonna have some fun. So I guess we're gonna go Chiefs first and get Frenchie out of the way, and then a little Steelers. You ready to get the fuck out for a little bit, Jim?
Yeah, I'm hungry.
Appreciate that. All right, so now for anyone that's been around for a while, been listening, OG style, you know who we're going to talk to when we got to talk Kansas City Chiefs. We've got to get my man Frenchie on the line. Frenchie, always a good day when the Chiefs are in the playoffs. How's it going, sir?
Yeah, it could always be better if we had that number one seed, but it's
you're wrong
still
about
a good
that.
opportunity to watch them in January and February for football.
Indeed. So I look at this matchup. We just saw it a handful of weeks ago here. Chiefs put a shellacking on the Steelers 36-10, and I think a lot of people look at that situation, Vegas specifically, as I'm looking at the 12.5-point spread as it currently sits, and just sort of mark this one down. I find myself a little more worried, but I tend to do that. So I wanted to see how you feel just generally about this matchup.
I still feel very confident going into it. I don't think it's going to be nearly the blowout that we saw last time. I think the Chiefs will still win it by double digits because of the fact the defense had a fantastic performance.
Yeah.
But I look at his Ben Roethlisberger, he's obviously does not have the physical capabilities he had in years past, but this could very well be his last game. So I wouldn't be surprised to at least see him come out and play a very strong game in a last-ditch effort to try and extend his career at least one more week. But Kansas City's offense really got into a roll against a good Pittsburgh defense, and that was without Travis Kelce, who was out due to COVID protocols. So I really think this is still the Chiefs' week and game to lose. But I'm really excited to see Kansas City back in playoff action and see if they can make a little bit of a run after the disappointment in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, actually, I totally forgot that was the game that Travis Kelce missed. The thing that stuck out to me, which you pointed out, is the defense played very well in that game. There were a handful of turnovers. I mean, Ben threw the one interception, couple fumbles. They just won the turnover battle, and that's how you get a final score like that. Do you see any type of I don't want to call it a hangover, especially coming off of the Denver game, because I think that was just sort of a going through the motions thing, but going back to that Cincinnati game where they were able to sort of move the ball around pretty well in the second half, do you have any concern about this defense maybe sliding back a little bit, or you feel confident?
I feel pretty confident because of the fact that Cincinnati was an upstart team that pissed a lot of people off this year with how well they played at certain points in the season. And I don't see the type of matchup here. Deontay Johnson, a very good receiver. He's had an absolutely fantastic season. But Jamar Chase is an offense onto himself. And we saw that in that Kansas City game. And I think this defense is going to be a lot more prepared for Pittsburgh than they were for Cincinnati. I expect we're going to see probably the offense be a lot more lively in the second half, unlike we saw from them, because they kind of took the foot off of the gas pedal. But now that we're here in the postseason, I really expect that Andy Reid is going to keep that offense firing on all cylinders. And Pittsburgh defense, obviously you got guys like Cameron Hayward and TJ Watt, Minka Fitzpatrick, and guys at all three levels that can make plays. But this offensive line is very improved, obviously, from what we've seen this year. A Pro Bowler in Orlando Brown, a guy that should have been in the Pro Bowl with Creed Humphrey, a guy
Yeah.
that could end up being a first-team All-Pro this year as a rookie at center. And then obviously guys like Joe Tooney and all the adjustments they've made across the board on that offensive line all have been fantastic this year. But I think that's going to be the big matchup is if they can contain Hayward and Watt on the defensive line, then I think Kansas City will steamroll Pittsburgh again and walk to a double-digit victory.
So I'm just sort of looking at the stat line from last time because it's what we have to go off of to an extent here. Najee Harris just under 100 yards. He's a guy that I sort of circle as they need to contain. He's just been at least the attempts machine this year for them. There was 19 in the game with Kansas City the last time. I anticipate a similar kind of game plan from them where they're going to try to slow down and keep Kansas City's offense off the field. That's you hear that every time. I mean, maybe less so this year. With the way some of the offense played early in the season, but at least now, if they're going on full cylinder, you're going to hear, like you project, you're going to hear a lot of, they're going to try to run the ball, keep Patrick Mahomes and company off the field. This defense, like you said earlier, has really stepped up by the addition of Melvin Ingram. I've talked about that since it happened and how big of a thing it really was to allow Chris Jones to play in the middle and shut things down. Do you think that's the key to keeping Harris to maybe a short day?
Well, absolutely. I mean, look at the impact that Ingram has had since coming over from these same Steelers. And even just this past week against the Broncos, you saw him get the pivotal strip on the attempt by Melvin Gordon, which not too often you see a Melvin versus Melvin in the NFL. But get the strip on that rushing attempt and Nick Bolton taking it to the house for what ended up being the game-winning score. I think that is a huge show of what he can bring to the table here. Obviously, the pass rush ability that we've seen throughout him in his time in the AFC West with San Diego, then Los Angeles Chargers. But I think a lot of people really don't understand how good of a run stopper he can be on the outside. And yeah, moving Chris Jones back inside, you can play him on the right side and move Frank Clark to the left side, which we saw a little bit against Denver on Saturday as well. Mm-hmm. And Clark seems to be a guy that's going to win a lot more matchups against a right tackle than left tackle. So yeah, I think his addition was a huge part of what allowed this team to kind of get back into form. Also moving Alex Okafor back to the bench, where he can basically come out in pass rush opportunities and kind of save his energy to get those big QB hits down the stretch.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we've talked to you quite a few times, and you're probably the only Chiefs fan that we talked to other than myself. So it had to have been you, but I believe you were very, very loud in the preseason, banging the drum for one Derek Gore. And man, has he had some shine this year, and looks pretty promising. Feel free to pat yourself on the back on that one.
Oh yeah, I loved watching Gore in the preseason. I think he was going to be a great RB3 for this team. And with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I love watching him when he's on the field, but that just seems to be few and far between at this point. And Darrell Williams had a really good game too. This has been an unsung hero for this team, being able to catch the ball in the backfield as well. 11 carries, 55 yards against Pittsburgh last time. And with Helaire on the shelf, I think we're going to see a lot more of these two guys. And I think that this run offense is going to be able to produce. We saw them, they were held under 4 yards a carry, but a lot of that was because of Helaire. Williams and Gore, they had, 89 of the 127 yards. And I think we're going to see a lot of them, especially if the Chiefs get an early lead and try to really grind this defense down and possibly set up a big pass play later on. But I think Mahomes was able to tear apart this defense, and we'll be good moving forward into this playoff game.
Yeah, no, like I said, I have agreed with your statements on Derek Gore since here part of the way through the season. He's just looked like a beast. When a lot of people are looking and talking about this Kansas City Chiefs team, you're getting the obvious names thrown out. You're getting your Tyreek Hill, your Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, even probably CEH gets the name recognition first, unless you play a lot of fantasy football. But talk about some of these, I don't want to call them smaller guys, but these maybe lesser known or guys that it seems that Kansas City's been really trying the last few weeks to get involved. Someone like a Byron Pringle, even Mecole Hardman, which a lot of people know him, but he's just sort of, it seems as though they've been trying to get him involved a bit more. Even someone like Demarcus Robinson. How do you feel about these guys? I know some of these guys the Chiefs are gonna have to make decisions on down the road, but these guys have come up big in a few spots and made some really big plays. How do you feel about these guys going into the playoffs?
Well, Pringle's another guy that I've been really big on for a couple of years now, even watching him on special teams back in like the 2018, 2019 seasons, and really start to see him come into his own about midway through last year and then into this season. He's really been that number 3 receiver for them all year behind Hill and Hardman. And he had a really nice game against Pittsburgh last time, caught a pair of touchdowns, led the team in receiving yards. And he's a guy that a lot of people forget about, and he's made quite a few big plays this year, and he might fly under the radar a little bit, but you look at his stats and he's right up there as that number 3 guy in that offense behind Hill and Kelsey a lot of the time. And a lot of the time this year has really even been outplaying McCall Hardman. Hardman's a guy that really has speed and not much else. He's not the crispest route runner. If you're able to get him in space, yeah, he's going to torch you a little bit, but Pringle, a guy that he's not the fastest, but he can go out there, make some plays with his legs, and is a crisp route runner and can kind of be that underneath guy when you got guys like Hardman and Hill going deep and Kelsey activating the middle of the field.
Yeah, love that formation. Love seeing Kelsey over the middle there. All right, so you know how this works, and I planned and hope to talk to you more than just this one time, but we're going into Wild Card Weekend. This is I'm trying to be as forward with everybody as we can be that's listening. We are recording this Monday the 10th here late afternoon. So if anything crazy happens, with the COVID stuff and anything, some of these predictions may be a little But as of right now, you feel pretty confident. You sound like you feel pretty confident about this. Give me a prediction. Give me a final score. What do you see happening in this game?
I think Kansas City is going to take a lead in the first quarter, kind of like what we saw last time. I don't think they're necessarily going to get 14-0. I'm thinking maybe 10-0 in the first quarter and maybe like a touchdown each of the next 3. They're going to end around 31 points. I think Pittsburgh, might be down a little bit big, maybe 3 scores or so in the first half. They might get a touchdown late in the first half and maybe one in the fourth quarter and a field goal somewhere in there. I'm leaning 31-17. For a final score, but I think Kansas City really grabs a hold of this with a 2-score lead in the first quarter and not necessarily coast, but you're going to see them try to dominate the time of possession, put some more points on the board, and really just kind of eke this game out and get ready for the divisional round.
Yeah. Well, your mouth to the football god's ears. Man, I know you got a lot of other stuff going on. Give you a second to plug all the other stuff that you got going on. You seem to be a busy man. That's why Jam and Ryan aren't in the room. We had to square this away while they were busy. But appreciate you coming on. Let people know where they can find you.
Yeah. So you mentioned busy. Last week I had basketball on Monday, Saturday.
So your feed seems to pop up on my Facebook every time I open it. So I know you're busy.
Podcast Tuesday, wrestling Thursday, hockey Friday, and Sunday last week. You can find my sports broadcasting page at Pardon My French Media on Facebook and Twitter. I believe Twitter is at PMF_media. You can find our anime podcast at The Weekly Weebs on Facebook and Twitter, as well as Instagram. You can find The Weekly Weebs podcast there. And then, kind of all over the place a lot of the times, but trying to get my sports podcast back up and running as well, called the Sporting Hat Podcast, which you can find that and the Weekly Weebs on both Podbean and Spotify as well.
Perfect, man. Well, we appreciate you finding the chance to even hop on with me here briefly to talk about the Chiefs, and hopefully we're trying to hammer out some time next week to talk about another game.
Yeah, looking forward to it. See you next week.
All right, I appreciate you.
Yeah, have a good day.
All right, that's Frenchie. He's been around. You guys know him. So we're gonna take a quick break. Come back. Hopefully, kick over to a more full podcast table right now. All right, so now it's time to talk a little Pittsburgh Steelers, right?
All right.
Call Chris.
How you doing?
Chris, you joined us before, right? Like we talked.
Yeah, I've been on it, several times.
You joined us before, right? Like we
Yeah, I've been
talked.
on it several times. To
Okay,
talk
I
about
thought so, and
Steelers.
I said that. I said that in the open. I just I said it, and I thought I got to go back and actually do the research and see when we talked or how long.
checking you.
No, this is factually correct. But we got a matchup coming up. But we can talk about the matchup. We can talk about Big Ben. We can talk about. There's lots of things we can talk about. But the one question I have to ask, like, it's first off the top, and we're a couple days removed now as we're recording. But take me back to your Sunday night, because God, this had to be just you. Like, of all the people we've talked to, behind the curtain. We have now talked to, you are the 12th fan. We've talked to a fan from every team that's playing in the playoffs this weekend. Anyone who had maybe a little something on it, like position could move around. We've asked the question, but you're the guy who watched this game thinking, man, if this goes this way, we're out. So how was your viewing experience as that game went into overtime and progressed?
Well, I'll tell you, Sunday was the most stressful day of football I can remember in a long time, between the Steelers struggling to win their game and, knowing that Jacksonville was beating up the Colts. So that, to me, was extremely difficult. And then they get the win. Everything falls into place. And I'm watching the game, and I'm happy to be for 3/4 of it, because they were actually, both teams looked like they were playing to win. And at 15, I started doing the math when they were up by 15, saying, touchdown, 2-point conversion, we're tied, overtime, it better not go to overtime. And sure enough,
I think Steelers fans were the only one doing that 15-point math, because at a certain point when it was 15, I turned the game off.
Yeah,
I'm like, this is it. I had money on I had a little money on the Chargers, and thought, well, that's not happening, and I just went, okay, well, this isn't going to tie, so it's whatever. And then as I'm laying in bed, I get a couple notifications from my fantasy app, because I had Justin Herbert on a fantasy team. That season was over, but they kept push notifications on, and here's 2 touchdowns, and I went, oh shit, what does that mean?
Yep.
Pulled up the app, pulled up the score, and went, oh, okay, I guess I got to turn this game back on now and watch the game as it went into overtime.
It was when they went into overtime, it looked like they were playing to win, but as that time started ticking, I got more and more nervous, and it was like, I cannot believe this is going to happen. And it wasn't like they were at like the 48 or 49 yard line, and they weren't really trying. And then when that timeout was called, I started to think, well, are the Raiders going to get pissed and like try and score, or are they going to actually, or are the Chargers going to just hope to punt and then hope they can score? I mean, I'm trying to, like, 9 million things are going on in my head.
For sure.
Meanwhile, my heart is going, this can't be happening. Everything lined up perfectly. Plus, it's not just like any other year. This means I will no longer be able to watch Ben Roethlisberger play. I thought I had another game in the bag for him. And when they kicked the field goal, that was the next thing. I was like, all right, now this isn't a chip shot.
Nope.
He's got to kick a pretty decent field goal.
47, I believe.
He's going to shank it on purpose, and nope, he kicked it down the center, and it was like an incredible relief. Almost as credible as the relief as when Boswell kicked the field goal for the Steelers to beat the Ravens.
There you go.
It was a godly stressful day.
Two game-winning field goals for the Steelers this weekend.
Yeah, in one day.
One they did.
You don't see that too often.
Yeah, that was a rough game. Rough day, and I hope I don't have any more of those.
So here's my thing. You mentioned an extra game for Big Ben. All signs seem to be pointing to his retirement at the end of the season. They had the big farewell in Pittsburgh a couple weeks ago, the last home game. And you'd mentioned the ups and downs and the emotions and all of that. And I'm kind of looking at it from a situation as, a couple weeks ago, yes, there weren't necessarily out of the playoff picture, but realistically speaking, 2 weeks ago, you say all of this stuff was going to happen and Pittsburgh is going to make the playoffs. I feel like anybody on that team, let alone fans and, pundits and analysts, would kind of just laughed it right off. Was there a situation where Big Ben's looking at this and going, oh man, shit, I was already checked out. I was done. I was ready to go. And now you're calling me, like, just when I think I'm out, they drag me right back in. How do you get emotionally ready and prepared for a game when you didn't really even realize you were going to be in a position to be in that game?
I think, like any competitor, he wants to keep playing. I don't think he was conceding the fact that he doesn't want to play anymore. and just was, going to go off basically on his hands and knees. I think he's going to go out trying and swinging, and you could tell by his actions on plays where receivers didn't run the right routes and so forth. There, you could see the frustration on the last 3 or 4 games when things weren't going well. So that tells me he wanted to get there, that he wanted to get one last run at it. And I'm not convinced 100% that the door's closed on Ben coming back. But because he's kind of that drama guy. He's always been that drama guy. With his comments, he kind of pulled a Favre for a while, where every year he talked retirement. And then so I'm not 100% sure. I'm probably 85% sure he's retiring. Personally, I think it's time, but we'll see. We'll see if he actually sticks to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't see Ben being a hey, I'm done, and then pulling a Favre and coming back and playing for another team, or sort of hamstringing him and coming back next season. I mean, maybe there's a world where they shock the world, knock off Kansas City, wind up just on the doorstep of a Super Bowl, and that gets Ben going. You know what? Yeah, maybe next year, maybe I will see this thing out. But I think he's made his mind up, as was evidence in that last home game. How do you come out here and do that then? Like I said, shock the world. One of the biggest spreads of the weekend. Not a lot of people giving Pittsburgh much of a chance in this one, at least from a betting perspective. The last time we saw these two teams play just a few weeks ago was not a good outing for Pittsburgh. How do you overcome all of that, coming to this game ready to compete with Kansas City?
Well, I look at it as the fact that they're playing a team that they've only played 3 or 4 weeks ago. I look at that as a plus. If you think back to the year the Giants played New England at the last game of the season, they said that was a big reason why they were able to win the Super Bowl against an undefeated team, because they had familiarity. They were on the field with him. They understood the speed of Tyreek Hill. They understood the mobility of Patrick Mahomes, because they just faced it. So it's not like it's going to take them 3 quarters to adjust to it. Both teams are going to change their plans, but I give it advantage Steelers to make it a game, because of the familiarity of just playing them a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't like it was week 3 and so much can change. So I look at that as a plus. I also look at it, we don't know what Chiefs team is going to show up. The one that went that stretch of blowing people out, or the one that played okay against Denver and okay against some other teams where they were ripened to beat. This is not a Chiefs team that I look at it as they're a surefire Super Bowl contender. They have their warts. Now the Steelers have more. They can't seem to score in the first half, and their run defense is terrible. But the Chiefs aren't a running team; they're a throwing team, so that could also benefit the Steelers. So if the Steelers can keep it close, and the fact that Tyreek Hill has not been a major factor in the last 4 or 5 weeks with 50-yard passes, taking the top off defense. If the Steelers can keep it close, I could see a T.J. Watt making a big play at the right moment, maybe strip sack or a big play. Give Ben that ball, because I'll tell you, Ben has shown throughout his career, and even this year, he can come back. I think he has 6 comeback wins just this year. They just have to keep it close. They cannot make big penalties, turn the ball over, and allow the running game to gash them, because then Mahomes is going to have a field day.
Yeah, and it's sort of a different feeling if you think back just to last season with the Steelers team, undefeated for the majority of the season, 10, 11 wins in a row, and then coming into the playoffs with all these high hopes and expectations. Now you've got a team that sort of struggled throughout the season, but kept fighting and sort of clawed their way into this position. So there might be a little bit more of, a want to be here. Expectations were different last season than they are now. So now that they're coming in here knowing what to expect, knowing what kind of Kansas City Chiefs team they're going to get, and sort of playing with house money right now. So there could be a world where this team's basically going, you know what, fuck it, let's go. We weren't supposed to be here. No one's giving us a chance. Let's just fucking go out there and ball out.
And this isn't, Ben's been a part of that. None of the other players have. But when Bettis was retiring, they went in as the 6th seed. They upset the favored Colts in the famous Bettis fumble game, the tackle game. So Ben's been a part of that before. Now he's full circle, he's the one who's playing with his swan song. He's the one who's playing every game could be his last. So he's has a lot to do to control when he may be done playing. So I think that does factor in. I think, Ben is so beloved by his teammates because of the type of player he has, because of his resume, because he's a first ballot Hall of Famer or champion, that I think a lot of them may up their game. And I think on a negative, I mean, look, let's face it, Andy Reid is on the other sideline. Andy Reid is not the best big game coach. I'm not saying Tomlin is, but Andy Reid has made his mistakes in playoff games. Andy Reid's gone in at 15-1 and lost to the Colts. So there's that. Andy Reid's not a great adjuster at halftime if things aren't going his way. Andy Reid's a program builder. He's not the best game time manager. So that's a plus. So, there's that choke factor on the fact that the Chiefs, aren't playing as great as they have played in seasons past. They just beat the brakes off the Steelers, so they're going to go in there maybe a little extra swagger. And I'll take Tomlin over Andy Reid, big game, big situation. So there are some hypothetical pluses, so we just have to see if they factor in.
So I have to ask, because it popped up here on my on my timeline as we've been recording all kinds of things this evening. Did you catch Big Ben's press conference today? Did you happen to see that?
No, I did not.
It made me chuckle. I all disclosure, I guess we haven't got that far. I am a Chiefs fan, so I've just sort of been hanging back and watching. But he's I think he said all the right things, which you would expect someone like Ben Roethlisberger to do here. But
sure.
I think he just sort of he's slow rolling it pretty hard. If you had to rank all the teams in the playoffs, we're clearly number 14, and no one. I think that's just sort of the mentality that this team can build. And as a Chiefs fan, I absolutely hate it. If I'm being honest with you.
Well, yeah, you can't count Ben out. I mean, the
No.
problem with Ben right now is he just, it's funny. I've seen him make the throws, and then I watched the game against Baltimore saying this guy is throwing the ball worse than Peyton Manning did in his last year. Like he was throwing ducks out there. Like that last play to Ray McLeod that he, got them the first down. It was like he threw a knuckleball. Where was the zing that Ben's throws have? And then throughout the season, I've seen him make, the 20-yard out with zip and put it in the perfect place. So I don't know what to expect from Ben, what Ben's arm is going to show up for the game. And if they can get the ball deep, even though other than Claypool, they don't have others to get deep. If they could start doing that and open up the running game, it can be a fight. And I'll put my money on Ben to pull it out if it's close at the end.
Sure, and you said it very well there with sort of opening up the run game. My question, the last question that I have for you is: here we are as we're recording Wednesday evening. Najee Harris unable to practice. Is that as a concern? Do you suppose that's just sort of we know he's going to be good to go, but there's no need to get him on the practice field? How do you feel about that one?
I think right now he did come back into the game on Sunday, so that's a plus. I think there's some healing that has to go on, and there's some resting that needs to happen. He's gonna have to be a big part of this playoff run if they're gonna have a run, and it starts with Kansas City. So they're gonna probably minimize his exposure to activity up until Thursday, Friday in the walkthroughs. If he was back Sunday, I would be shocked if he wasn't playing Sunday night. The following week, but he's gonna have to touch the ball 30 times. And do something with those 30 touches for the Steelers to have any chance. Catching the ball out of the backfield, running the ball, getting yards after contact. This run is not going to be on Ben. It's going to be on Najee carrying this team in the playoffs.
Yeah, we've sort of talked about this on the podcast. I'm a big Najee Harris guy. I do agree with you, and that was a big question for me. So as we bring it to a close here, as we've done with everybody else, you are the last one that I'm getting the picks from.
Okay.
What's your prediction for this game? Give me a game flow. How you think it turns out? Give me a final score.
Oof. I've been rolling. This has been rolling around in my brain since I knew the matchup was happening. I look at this game being in the beginning a very slow game. 7-3, 10-3, Chiefs. Steelers keep it close, but I see very little offensive outpour beginning of the game, and I think it's going to pick up second half. Teams will make a little bit of an adjustment. The homer in me says the Steelers can pull it out in a 24-21 or 27-23 type game, but reality, I think the Steelers just come up a little bit short, and my prediction, unfortunately, is going to be something of a 27-17 type win for the Chiefs.
You are the one of 12 to not pick his team to win the playoff game.
You got to be realistic.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I really do.
No, it's refreshing. We see that a lot. We had at one point a Texans fan a few years back say that they were going to go like 13-0 in a season that they went 5 wins. So it's refreshing to get an honest opinion from a fan.
And that's why we do this, right?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Like I said, my heart says the first thing I said, but my brain, that's watched enough football and watched every single snap of the Steelers, said they're not all of a sudden going to turn on that offense and score 35 points. They have struggled to put up 20 points for the last 7 weeks. Chiefs defense is playing pretty good. They'll put up 17, probably 10 of that will be in the fourth quarter in comeback mode. And I could see just a 27-17, maybe 27-20 Chiefs victory. But I think Steelers cover the spread, though.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, we appreciate you taking a little time. And what's that?
Anytime.
Yeah, we appreciate it, especially you being a little flexible and this, that, and the other thing.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We love having you on, and I'm sure we will
Thank
be
you.
talking to you again at some point in time. I'm hoping it's not next week, if I'm being completely honest with you as a Chiefs fan. But if your team does manage to pull it out and gets that W, the other guys will be calling you next week.
Sounds great. Thank you. Have a great night.
All right.
Appreciate the time.
Appreciate it, man.
Later.
Take care, buddy.
All right. That's as we're recording them, that's it. Right.
That's it.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know what order you're listening to these in. If it's a different order, I get it. But as we're recording these, that's 12. We hit them all. They're all out there for you. Make sure you guys are checking it out, pulling them up, listening to 12 fans talk about their team and what they think of their chances this weekend and how they think their team can win, or if they think their team will win, or whatever it happens to be. So we appreciate it. Make sure you guys if you like what you're listening to, coming back to the podcast, listen to that. That's available Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday episode's out. We recap Week 18. Friday, tomorrow, as you're listening to this, hopefully, we'll be previewing the wildcard weekend. We're making our picks, giving you all our – and we'll give you scores on all the games. We're doing the sixth score. We're picking scores on every single game of wildcard weekend. We'll be picking scores for the rest of the games for the rest of the season, in fact. So – anything else, Jim?
No, we're throwing a lot of content at you this week.
It's a big content week.
And then the next following weeks as we gear up to the Super Bowl.
It's only 4 games next week that we have to throw stuff out, but we'll get some.
It's coming at you, so thanks for riding along. Invite
Appreciate
a friend, tag
Always.
a friend, share a video if you like it out there on the socials. And
Costs nothing to hit that share button,
good
guys.
luck.
If you like what you're listening to, we very much appreciate it. So until next week or the next video or whenever you guys listen to us next, we really appreciate it. This has been Just Another Football Show.
Bye.